Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Woodpeckers Deep Dive. Today, we're going to continue our closer look at the Woodpeckers Multi-Function Router Base. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll know about every one of our new videos. And if you like what you see today, be sure and give us a thumbs up. All right, let's get started. Let's start today by talking about some issues that we've had emails about and we've seen some activity on social media. First thing is exciting news. We have a new bar size. These are 1/4-inch rods. They were not in the original product release. They were added shortly thereafter because of a lot of older routers using a smaller diameter guide rod. So we now have 1/4-inch diameter guide rods. That'll also fit anything that is 7 millimeter if you have a European router with metric rods. So the new 1/4-inch 7 millimeter rods are available. They're on the website to order now. The next thing I want to talk about is figuring out if your router is going to work with the base. There is a chart on our website, but it is far from complete. It doesn't deal with older routers in particular, so I'd like to show you a little bit more about determining whether or not the MFRB is going to fit your router. The best way to measure the holes on your router is to use a drill bit. And I'm just using the shank of the drill bit to check the size of that hole. This one is one where we want to use the 1/4-inch rods. Now the other thing that you need that rod to go all the way through. If it's a stopped hole, you're going to run into problems. You have to be able to go all the way through. Okay, so that's how you can check to see if the MFRB is going to fit your router. In the first deep dive about the router base, we worked with the unit just like this, basically the unit itself. What we're going to do today is take a look at the extension system. Okay, we've got 2 rods here that are going to bolt in to these guide rods and a fence that extends out up to 22 inches away from the router. So we're going to start by taking the rods and threading them in to the guide rods in the base. Now you'll notice they have little holes in there, and you just need something in your shop that'll fit in that hole to give that a little tug to tighten it up. Then the fence unit just slides right on like that. So last week I showed you how to cut a groove on an angle to the stock. Today we're going to put a right angle on, but we're more than the 8-inch capacity of the base. So I need to use the extension rods to get me over to my line. And I want to show you a little trick that makes getting the size of your joining piece real simple. I've got a square line that I've scribed on my stock. I'm going to bring my square right to that line. Now I'm going to take the stock that I want to join. I'm going to rest it up against the square. And when I scribe the line on the back side, I'm not relying on my hands to hold that there. I've got that square acting as a fence. So now I'm pretty confident that that groove is right where I want it to be. Now the adjustment procedure with the micro adjuster is a little bit different when you're using the extension. So let me go over that in detail. It starts out the same. We want the fence against the stock, and we're going to get in the ballpark by sliding the router on the mounting rails. When we get it close, we're going to lock the router onto the rails. Now when we use the micro adjuster with just the base itself, you unlock these 2 knobs, turn the micro adjuster, and it's moving the router relative to the base. Well, the base isn't locked down. So all that happens is this moves around and nothing ever changes. The bit stays in the same position. What we have to do to use the micro adjuster is unlock it in both positions at the micro adjuster and at the fence and clamp the base to your stock. Okay, now when we turn the micro adjuster, it's going to move the router. Okay, now when I get it close, I'm going to lock my fence. I'm going to leave the table locked just to be sure. And I'm going to rotate my bit to make sure that I'm right on the line at top dead center. So we'll unclamp it now, slide over to the side where we want to start, and adjust the router down for the cut. Get our depth of cut set right, clamp the router, check everything, make sure it's clear, and we're ready to start. Now I'm going to adjust the router over to the other pencil line. Perfect fit. So we're going to do some long arcs now, and we're going to actually make it a project. We're going to make a cheese board just like this one with 2 different radiuses cut on the edges, and then a molded edge for a finger grip. And I came up with this idea for a little fixture that makes this a lot simpler. What I did was I took a piece of scrap plywood, cut it with a very square cut on the end, and then I drilled a hole every 1.5 inches. So that gives me a lot of options for my access point, and the access point doesn't have to be like it was last week when I showed this to you. The access point was part of the board. What we're going to do now is make that access point part of this separate scrap board, and then we can make a much longer cut on a shorter piece of wood. So I took off the fence, and now I'm going to take the trammel access pin, I'm going to drop that right in there, and then tighten it down. So to get this to come out with nice, crisp, even looking corners, what I have done is I've made this board square. Doesn't matter what width it is, doesn't matter what length it is, as long as the corners are square. And then we're laying everything out from the center. So I have 2 lines marked on the center of the board this way, the center of the board this way. And my piece of scrap stock here with my access points is just a little thinner than my stock. Not much, but enough that it is not going to be a problem. And I just want to line up the center lines of the 2 boards just like that. So I have my board clamped to the table, I have my access point clamped to the table. Now we're ready to start seeing where we want to cut. We'll get the router close to the end of the board. Actually, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to press that into my scrap board, and then we're going to start making some fine adjustments. I'm going to slide that a little bit further out, check our depth of cut. I want this just a little bit outside of the end of the board. So now that I've got my full depth cut, I'm going to make an adjustment here and bring the router bit till it just kisses the end of the board at the apex. Make one more very, very light cut. That'll take care of any burning that I got on the end. Now we're going to unclamp the board and turn it end for end. Put the same cut on this end. Since we cut an arc on this end, I can't rely on referencing off the square on my fixture. So I'm going to get that close by eye, and then I'm going to line up a straight edge on my board. In addition to being in line with it at its intersection, we also need to make sure that it's parallel. And on center, we're good to clamp it up. So I'm going to slide this back out just a smidgen so that we can make the cuts to establish the bulk of the curve, and then we'll come back in for our cleanup pass. I want a really broad curve on these long edges, more than I can get with the regular extension rods. So I'm going to add a set of optional extenders so we can take our axis out even further. Really nice cut, even in this quilted grain. All done here. Now we're ready to go to the router table and put the edge on. Now we're going to put a real small round over on the top side. And it's ready for sanding and finish. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked the tricks that you saw here, including the multi-point axis board, hit that thumbs up button. Let us know that you like what we're doing. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. That way you'll know about every one of our new videos. I thank you so much for watching today. If you're interested in the product, there's a link right down there with the others that'll take you straight to the ordering page. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Deep Dive.